Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Heines, and I'm running for Congress in Washington State's 1st Congressional District. Now, yesterday we saw the invasion of the Ukraine, but what they're not going to tell you is that this has been going on for a long time. It goes back to the Clinton dossier, the attempts to subvert the Trump presidency, and it goes back to China and the China virus. Now, I, as a congressional candidate, can no way stand by and let the innocent people of the Ukraine suffer and die because of the super rich like Vladimir Putin. So I am going to outline 10 things that we can do and that I will be doing to resist Russia, to resist Biden, and to resist the Democratic Party, the Chinese Communist Party, and to shut them down. If you're with me, go ahead and listen as I read on. Russian-Ukraine invasion, the newest in super rich pay-for-play U.S. politics. Plus, 10 ways we're going to punish China, Russia, and their collaborators. As we watch on this day, February 24th, 2022, the murder of thousands of Ukrainians and the theft of property and assets by the rogue Russian state, we are watching another move in a game of chess being played against the world's poor and working classes. And the U.S. is powerless to stop it. That's the one thing that no one in the complicit and collaborator media wants you to know or think about. This is not about what happened and how that happened. This is about what we're going to do about it. But first, you must understand, this invasion started in 1990 when we began to allow communists and known terrorists into the United States under the first George Bush. They had to have a reason to turn our intelligence networks against us. According to Edward Snowden, after September 11th, 2001, that's exactly what the U.S. government did. BLM, Seattle's CHOP, and super rich Democrat urban renewal. On a smaller scale of what we see in Russia, the super rich are using the guise of racism to turn uneducated immigrants, the products of our public school, communist indoctrination centers, and minorities into racist armies ready to destroy any city developers have an eye on at the drop of a knee. For example, with its rigged elections, Seattle was once one of the world's most beautiful and friendly cities, and is now a wasteland governed by the super rich and the super poor and the criminally violent. When I visited the CHOP site on Capitol Hill, the Black Lives Matter members explained the people causing the problems were in the homeless camps all around the CHOP. We know that George Soros and the DNC-funded Black Lives Matters funded these protests. Just remember, when the money dries up, the protests dry up. The Trump-Russia collusion sham highlights the DNC pay or get invaded scheme. On a much larger scale, we saw the election of Donald Trump momentarily get in the way of the pay or get invaded by the super rich Vladimir Putin and his former KGB buddies, who got rich squeezing the businesses and businessmen of the Soviet Union under the guise of it being the new Russia. As we saw, the Russians were colluding with and getting paid by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party because they needed the Democrats in place in order to invade the Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Bidens were making millions from both sides as they made the deal clear. To the Ukrainians, they said, pay up or we will let the Russians kill your people and take your land. We see that the Ukrainians could never compete once it became a joke for the Russians to hold off on their plans because of U.S. Biden bribes and kickbacks. How we resist. As Americans and citizens of the world, you must start to resist by accepting some basic facts. Number one, this is nothing new. The super rich of all races have been conducting war and murder since the beginning of time. Number two, you're paying for your own enslavement every time you buy something from China. Number three, your rights no longer exist. Number four, the U.S. elections are a complete fraud and sham. Number five, either all of the U.S. returns to in-person voting with an ID, or we are simply slaves in a Chinese-run Marxist puppet state. If you don't act today and tomorrow and keep acting for the rest of your life, your future is slavery. Number seven, the super rich own the media, and they will continue to downplay the deaths and extermination of millions of the poor and voiceless, us, as they did during the Holocaust. The CIA made up wars, South Central Los Angeles, 9/11, Afghanistan, China virus attack, Iraq, etc., etc. Number eight, do not trust any politician, including me, or any organization until you see who is behind them. Many of the so-called conservative organizations and parties are simply fundraising machines who will say anything to get your money, and then they will collaborate with anyone who's willing to pay them. Most of these we call rhinos. Number nine, do not trust anyone with a bunch of rhetoric and high school history lessons about the founding fathers. These people have no answers. If the founding fathers were here, they would tell us to concentrate on solving our problems, not history lessons. Number 10, act. 10 steps to nonviolent resistance. I am not recommending anyone do any of the following. I'm simply listing them because I'm doing them myself. Go slow for Joe. We all know that Joe Biden is not running the country. We all know Joe is just a decrepit representative of what was once the Democratic, now the Chinese Communist Party. To celebrate Slow Joe and his willingness to say nothing about the Holocaust of the Uyghurs in China and the citizens of the Ukraine, I will be having one Go Slow for Joe drive around Seattle every month, starting in March. March out of China. During the month of March, I will not be buying anything from China. If the world will participate, we can shut down the CCP and free the people of China for good. If you do buy anything from China, do it while you're thinking of the violent deaths of millions, and don't forget to include yours and your family's deaths as well. Protests at every media outlet every day. How long will you keep sending the Sinclair Corporation that owns almost all of Seattle media the message you don't care if they think you're an ignorant puppet? Any and every group who wants to take back our country should be planning one protest per month outside Sinclair-owned Seattle media establishments. Push back on the media. Get a scanner. If you have the time, follow the media when they cover a story. Bring signs. Make noise. Let the people know the collaborator media is working for the super rich because they are the super rich. Disrupt their broadcasts, call them out as liars, hypocrites, racists, and communists. Let them know they're not welcome wherever they are in a loving yet firm manner. Push back on the Democrats with one-a-day reminders. Find your Democratic representative's contact information Every day, send at least one of your Democratic representatives an email or message. Tell them you're happy to inform them their crimes have been discovered. They can resign now and come clean, or wait until after the elections and face a military tribunal for treason. Consulate demonstrations. Every group should be planning demonstrations outside the consulates of the Chinese Communist Party and Russia. Their media will cover them, and our media will cover them because they fall under the international desk. Get behind the in-person voter initiatives. Politicians like myself, who actually wish to win an election and not just fundraise and act like a big shot, are getting behind in-person voter initiatives. Of course, there is a lot of work to be done and decisions to be made, but we will take the first steps and see where God leads us on the journey to freedom. Protest for things that are going to gain support. There are a lot of protests and protest leaders now, but ask yourself before you join a protest, what is the ultimate goal of the group, and is that goal realistic? For example, Victoria Palmer's March for Freedom has been protesting against the mask and vaccine mandates. At the same time, their group, the Washington Civil Rights Council, is providing legal help and resources to people resisting the tyranny of Jay Inslee, the Pfizer Corporation, the Chinese Communist Party, and the Democratic National Committee. They have been fighting for almost a year and are one of the best examples of a protest group with realistic goals that people can get behind. The only way out is political or violent. Many people who don't know any better would talk a lot of nonsense about using violence to save ourselves from our poor for-profit politicians. People talking like this are either stupid, ignorant, or FBI counterterrorism. However, before we go down that road or even consider it, we must honor the men and women who worked, fought, sacrificed, counted, verified, and helped our voting system work until the computers came along. Love one another. This is now a new kind of warfare. It is a war of the mind and body of the rich and powerful against the billions of spirits who inhabit bodies on this planet. For over 100 years, a small group of evil men and women have been harvesting our minds and our bodies with their wars and their hate. Now they're coming for the ultimate prize, 8 billion souls. And he became Satan, yea, even the devil, the father of all lies, to deceive and to blind men and to lead them captive at his will, even as many as would not hearken unto my voice. Finally, we must have a plan. Please follow me at voteforheines.com. I think you're going to agree with my plan. I'm Matthew Heines. I want to wish you good luck in the days ahead. I want to remind you that we must all stick together. Do not let them divide us. Do not let them fill us full of their lies and hate. Together we stand, and divided we fall. Good luck, and I'll see you at the next briefing.
My name is Matthew Heines. I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the 82nd Airborne. I took the oath, and I'm here to defend my state from the communist Jay Inslee. Now,